Members' order of the day, number 1.
Compensation for live organ donors bill, committee stage.
I declare the House in committee for consideration of the compensation for live organ donors bill. Mr Chairman.
Mr Speaker. You're going to seek leave for one question, are you? You're going to seek leave for one question, are you?
Yeah, I think someone's going to.
Okay.
Point of order, Mr Chair.
Just one moment. Members, the House and Committee on the Compensation for Live Organ Donors Bill. Point of order, Carmel Sepuloni.
Point of order, Mr Chair. I seek leave for all provisions of this bill to be taken as one debate.
Leave is sought for that provision. Is there any objection? There is no objection. Then the question is that parts 1 to 3, schedules 1 to 4 and clauses 1 and 2 stand part.
Mr Chair.
Call Chris Bishop.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr Chair. Look, it's a great privilege to be here tonight speaking on the committee stage of this very important bill, and I want to thank all parties in Parliament for their support of this bill so far. The bill has had a title change, now called the Compensation for Live Organ Donors Bill, changed from the Financial Assistance for Live Organ Donors Bill, and that reflects the fact that the Select Committee considered that compensation for lost earnings was a better reflection of the bill's purpose. So, in my introductory remarks to this debate that we're going to have tonight, I wanted to just outline for the House the purpose of the bill again, and the purpose of the bill really is to, I suppose you would say the overriding purpose of the bill is to reduce the barriers for live organ donation, or reduce the financial barriers for live organ donation. And the corollary purpose to that is to better compensate those who altruistically decide to sacrifice literally a part of their own body to help other people. We need to recognise, Mr Chair, I think, that people who are live organ donors are heroes. They truly are heroes in our society. They selflessly sacrifice a part of their body to try and create a better life for somebody else. And in fact, we heard at the Select Committee, the Health Committee that I was very privileged to sit on, and I want to pay tribute to my friend and colleague Scott Simpson for swapping with me on finance and expenditure to allow me to come in and hear some of these stories. We heard from people who have donated organs, typically kidneys, but also other organs are available for donation. But we heard the stories from people about the hardship that they had to endure when they made that sacrifice, when they did decide to try and help out a friend or a family member or a loved one. And actually there are people out there in society who choose to donate to people they've never even met. And truly what a heroic thing to do, to donate a kidney typically to somebody else who you don't even know because you want to contribute to society and try and through the bonds of friendship and love try and create a better place. So what we know, sir, is that the financial barriers to people when they are considering whether or not they donate are considerable. So the status quo at the moment is that people receive the equivalent of the sickness benefit at the moment, or what we would used to call the sickness benefit. We wouldn't say it's a paltry sum of money, but it's certainly not something that it would certainly be a large sacrifice for many people when they do choose to donate. So typically people take anywhere between 6 to 12 weeks off work. For people who are earning money, people who are on any sort of moderate income, to have to take time off work and sacrifice that sort of salary is just not a starter for most people. And indeed, we heard lots of people who came before the Select Committee and said exactly that. And so what this bill does is it increases that support to 100% of earnings that were foregone. So it is compensation at that 100% rate. And the bill is originally introduced, as we know, set that level of compensation at 80%, which is in line with ACC. And at the second reading, we canvassed, I think, in the House why the analogy with ACC is actually inappropriate. And the biggest reason for that is, of course, that people who decide to sacrifice a part of their body, people who decide to donate an organ, are not enduring an accident, as we would typically think of it in terms of the accident compensation legislation. And of course, we don't need to create that gap between between what you're earning on ACC and what you're earning in work, because these people are going to go back into the workforce once they've recuperated from that operation. So the analogy with ACC is inappropriate. Instead, what we decided to do at Select Committee was make that rate to 100% of earnings foregone, and this brings New Zealand into line with what they have in the United Kingdom, which is 100% earnings compensation, and essentially adopt the principle of cost neutrality. So in other words, you should be no better or worse off from having donated. And what that means is that it essentially gets rid of that financial barrier that may exist. We have to be very careful between walking a fine line between disincentivising people by placing a financial barrier, but also that commercialisation of organ donation, or the potential commercialisation of that of people's body parts. And so I think the 100% compensation is the appropriate balance. It doesn't over-incentivise people; it just gets rid of that financial barrier. So that is the major purpose of the bill, and I'm looking forward to the conversation tonight.
The Honourable Annex.